Hey, what's up, everybody? Jeremy here. And guys, I've been looking forward to this conversation because we have a very cool guest with us today. His name is Byron Wolfe, and he is a fractional CEO as well as being the chief financial officer at a company called Black Tie Moving, which has hit the Inc. 5000. So we're going to be taking a look at what companies need to know to be profitable, especially in this changing economy. Hint, hint, Amazon just laid off 12,000 employees this week. So I think these are things we all need to know. So Byron, thanks for hanging out with me today, man.
Hey, man, appreciate it. I do want to do a tiny little correction.
Oh, shit, I screwed up.
Fractional CFO. CEO is like...
Oh, did I actually say that? Oh, my gosh, man. I can't believe I said that. Okay, so no, we're going to redo that intro. I can't believe I said CEO.
I was going to say the brand doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
No, I'm going to reread that intro, and then my team will cut that out.
All right, perfect. No worries.
Sorry, man. It's been a long week.
Oh, no, dude, trust me.
We've been going through this whole thing of getting fiber installed in the office and in our house. Like fiber internet, which is amazing now. But basically they're like, so we don't hang the line between the two buildings. You do. And I was like, okay, I'm going to figure this out. So I was on a 40-foot ladder hanging fiber this week.
No. That's hilarious.
Anyway, all right, let's give it a shot again. Hey, guys, so I'm very excited for this conversation today as we have somebody that I've really been looking forward to chatting with. His name is Byron Wolfe, and he's a fractional CFO as well as running a company called Black Tie Moving, where he is the chief financial officer, and they are an Inc. 5000 business. And this is a really, really important time to look at being more profitable, running your business correctly, because, you know, let's look at the news this week. Amazon laying off 12,000 employees, cutting their I think it was their Smiles program as well. They're cutting their pro bono program there. So a lot of things changing, things you need to know about. So Byron, thanks for hanging out with me today, man.
Yeah, dude, I've been excited about this, looking forward to it. It's going to be a great hour or half hour, whatever we got, man. I'm going to drag it out as long as I can.
We're going to drag this out, man. Usually these are like 25 minutes, but we're going to have a great conversation, so it's going to go a lot longer than that. But I want to talk about your story a little bit first. Like, how did you kind of get into... Because I think when people think about it, they think about CFO, they're like, oh, that sounds really boring. But it's one of those things, like, if you don't know about it, like, you're in really bad shape. So how did you kind of get into that whole world?
Yeah, so I mean, I was raised kind of in that arena. My dad, military guy, super gung ho, deployed a lot, kind of, up before the sun's up, back after the sun's down. So really my relationship was more with my mom than my dad. Dad, amazing guy. Like, I mean, literally couldn't be a better dad, but just not always present. And so I spent a lot of time with my mom. My mom was a CPA. She started her own CPA firm. So she worked as a CPA, kind of bouncing around as my dad was relocated, here to here to here, being in the military. And then when they got a little bit of stability, she opened her own CPA firm, got that going. So, man, I'm in there changing light bulbs, just like helping out with little stuff, when I'm a kid. Yeah. But I'm absorbing, and I'm seeing it. And I'm seeing these big money people come in, and they're talking about their taxes, and, hey, can I write off my, my brand new Range Rover? Whatever. Cool stories, right? And so it was always interesting to me. Of course, I'm in college, like, man, it's all about football, right? Like, I'm going to go play football. I'm going to be pro. I'm a 5'10", 235-pound guy. That was never going to happen. But, like, live the dream, right? So, of course, I go to college. I go in. I start, like, biomedical engineering. Sounded cool, like, I'm pretty sure there was some hot girl that I was chasing, when I signed up. But went in for that, trying to do sports. Wasn't, like, it was just tough, trying to try out for the team and have that academic track. It was tough. I knew finance, like anything math, was really easy for me. So I kind of fell into that business management, but the numbers were always like really exciting to me. And people would like, they're like, oh man, like accounting is so boring. Numbers are so boring. But like, I love it. Like, it's cool to me. Like, I love to see like, all right, if I do this, then like I get this result and then like what you can do with money, like even if you're just super selfish, you're like, I just want 12 Lambos, do your thing, right? But like if you want to help out, like you can volunteer 100%, but like if you kill it in business and you're making tons of money, like you can finance a whole lot of people volunteering. So to me, like making money is like, I'm not going to say that they're money is happiness, but like there's not a whole lot of sad, rich people. And so it helps to solve a lot of problems and like allows you to pursue stuff outside of business, which I'm a huge fan of. So yeah, that's kind of how.
You know what's interesting, and I think this is just kind of a sidebar in education, because like I think schools could do a better job like making math and numbers oriented things more interesting. Because like when I became a business owner, I became a math whiz, man. But in school, I was like struggling to pass algebra, because now I look at it and I see how much I need to know it. Like I need to know what are my KPIs. I need to know how much is an employee costing me. I need to know how much are they producing. So I think at the same time, like I think these are things that could be made more interesting to us early in life, because they're valuable when you get to run a business.
Oh yeah, because there's no practicality, right? Like I don't care what X is, I don't care what Y is. There's no practicality to it, right? But if you say, hey, this, this that you need to figure out, this is X. And X is like unlocks the keys to like profit, or unlocks the keys to, the Lambo, or, whatever your desire is.
Sure.
And I think if you have that practicality, it works, but they don't do that in school. You're not going to learn how to balance a checkbook, which, I know like the new generation doesn't have a clue even what a checkbook is, but like you got to have money in the account to spend it, And so like that was never in school. Nobody talked about that. Nobody talked about like, what credit was like, my mom talked about it, but I never heard it in school. Like, what's credit? What does that mean? Oh, cool, I can go to JCPenney's or Sears or whatever and go on a $300 shopping spree, and destroy my credit at 18 years old. Like, that's not a good thing, but that was most people's first experience with credit, because they were never told anything about it, right? So, yeah, it matters.
So let me ask you this, because I think because you had explained this to me earlier, and it kind of blew my mind. I think a lot of people, when it comes to small business, have a totally wrong definition as to what small business means. When you're talking at revenue and size and stuff like that. So I want to start, because I know you're really helping small businesses, but when we think of small business, it's not what a lot of us think of. So I'm curious to kind of let's just start there. Why small business? What would you qualify as a small business? So,
the number always blows people's mind. I think the most recent number they gave out, and I think this is 22 data, so this kind of moves, with time, but it was like $43 million and down, right?
Wow. And I think most people think like pizza shop, 2 employees, and, like a couple $100,000 a year. That's a small business. But by that definition, it's not, sure it is, but like 40 million and up to 40 million.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's big money, and there's certain industries that even push that, right? If they have real small profit margins, they can be even higher than that. I mean, we've got an excavation company that's considered a small business, and they do. I mean, a lot of money comes through there, and their margins are insanely good for their industry. But like a lot of people, especially like service industry, people are saying, hey, man, if I can't get 25, 30 points. Or profit percentage 25, 30%, like I'm not doing it right. And that can be true depending on the industry. But a lot of like construction, excavation, a lot of this stuff, I mean, they're under like 10% is amazing, right? And if they're, above 5, they feel like they're doing good. So much more revenue for them. But yes, I mean, most people think small business, oh yeah, that's my next door neighbor that's running a seamstress, out of her, guest room or whatever. But it can be massive companies, that they're not public. They haven't gone public. So they're still private, or maybe they're a partnership. They have some, like, maybe there's some equity investment, things of that nature. But they haven't gone public yet, and they're considered small. So like a lot of people, like I've heard this before. They're like, oh, I mean, we're like a medium-sized business. And I'm like, okay, cool. So you're what, like 100, 150K or 100, 150 mil. They're like, oh, no, we broke 10 mil. And I'm like, okay. I mean, that's an amazing size.
Yeah.
But you're still technically small. Like, and that's fine. Like, that's cool. Cause there's a lot of money in that, man. That's a niche, man. Like the big money that's being made today is entrepreneurs. Like, some of the gig workers, like they're small business, right? And so like, if you're tired of working for somebody, you want to start your own business, you're going to be a small business. You're going to be that way for a while. And there's nothing wrong with that, man. Like there's good profit, there's good control, like controlling your business. Yeah. That to me, that's a huge win. Like,
well, let's take a look within that then, because I think one of the And this is weird because I've done like a lot of episodes where I just talk about definitions because as weird as it is, man, I think actually understanding terms gives you more control of what you're doing. But we did we did this with crypto and with FTX and stuff. I'm like, let's just talk about the basics. People are like, whoa, I actually understand this. Yeah. So I want to take a look like within that kind of finance and small business sector, like what do you think are kind of the most confusing terms or things people need to know to kind of start out with or concepts?
All right. So, I'm watching my language. I have a bad habit of dropping F-bombs, so I'm trying to avoid it.
You can do that here, man. Like, so when we go on YouTube, as long as it's not in the first 15 seconds, we're good. You can say whatever you need to say.
Yes, I love it. So one of the things that I say, and this really just shakes people up, and you got to know your audience, but man, I use it a lot. Like when I get in and they're talking about, I just need to do more sales or, I just need to increase my revenue, blah, blah, blah. I'll say, look, man, I don't give a fuck about your revenue. The only thing I care about is your profit. And they're like, oh, what do you mean? Like revenue's where it's at. I got to get more sales, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, look, man, if you don't refine your profitability, if you don't find the spot that you're maximizing your profitability, if you're focused on these other areas and not there, you're doing your business a harm because you're building the business. You're creating so much more work and you haven't maximized your profitability. So why would you do more work to make the same money or less, right? And like people don't get that. And like I have a little.
That's a really, really, really good point because a couple years ago we did a viability study in our business, and we took a look at like, okay, so how much does it cost to actually get the product? What are all the additional monthly charges we have? How much do we pay out to salespeople? How much do we pay out in charges like transaction fees? Because there's a lot of. We looked at it. We're like, shit, we're not viable. We're actually paying for the past business with what we've been bringing in the future. Yes. So then we had to change how we structured everything. We changed all of our prices because like. If you're not looking at that, man, you are going to keep running into that profit or running into that I need money in trap if you're not profitable.
Yeah. Stealing Peter to pay Paul, and so many people get caught in that cash flow conundrum, right? Where like you have to keep making it to like finance the stuff in the past and like, that growth, but the cash flow is not there. So you talked about some things. So like a lot of people don't know what KPI is, key performance indicator. These are the things that you can point at and say, okay, this lever, if I do this with this lever, this is the result and it's a positive. If this goes down, if I'm not hitting these KPIs or if I'm not, in the range, then that's bad for the business. Those are great things, huge, and honestly, if you can find the 3 major KPIs in your business, like get those, dial those in, and then expand out. The other thing that I think is a big thing people miss out on is break-even point. And so you just explained it in amazing terms, but that's exactly what you talked about. What's the break-even? If we're going to provide this service or we're going to provide this product or whatever that is, like at what point do we break even on it, right? So if you know what it costs you to provide that, anything above that's going to be profit. And if you sell at anything below that, it's a loss and you shouldn't do it. Yes. So if you don't know your break even for the business and for your product lines, like you got to get a handle on that, right? 100%.
I'm curious because you talk to a lot of business owners and you work with a lot of businesses. How many people when you first talk to them don't know that?
So many. It's extremely rare. And what I have found, and I'm not going to pick on anybody specifically, but like what I have found is a lot of times I talk about these things and I'll say, do you know what your break even point is? Yeah. We got that. Okay, cool. What is it? Well, I mean, it's when we, roughly, and I'm like, then you don't know, this is a definitive number, okay, so we got to make this much money to cover, this, we got to make this much money for this product to be good. And so knowing all those is important. You know what your KPIs are? Yeah. I know what KPIs are. Okay. What's your KPIs? We got to make sales. That's not a KPI. I mean, they've got to sell, 10 roofs a week. Okay, cool. What's the numbers breakdown on that? Like, can they sell 10 small roofs, 10 big roofs? Like, is that commercials or? Well, I mean, on average, if they sell 10, we make money. Okay, well, also not a KPI. But so a lot of times they know the terms, they've heard the terms, and somebody has expressed that, but they don't really know what it breaks down to. And so you said something at the very beginning that I loved, right? So a lot of people don't really know what a CFO does, and they don't really know how it would benefit their business. They think, I'm not publicly traded. I'm not Google or Yahoo or, Facebook or whatever. I don't need a CFO. I'm not big enough for that. Well, like, I agree with like not wanting the expense of a CFO because they're expensive. I get that.
Yeah.
But like everybody needs a CFO. It may be somebody in your organization that wears that hat, that has that kind of ideal and can get the training and maybe get some insight from somebody else. Join a network group that does it. A huge fan of the fractional CFO, shameless plug. Like I think the fractional is the way to go. You get amazing context from a small investment, for what it is. And there is a lot of, and I'm going to pick on some of my fellow CFOs. There's a lot of CFOs that take the job and do the accounting, the controller, the CFO work because they like the big pay, but they probably should not be taking all of those seats and getting the pay. It would make more sense for them to maybe work for 2 or 3 businesses, provide the high level, and have the cheaper controller, cheaper accountant underneath it. That we can sidetrack on that another day. Yeah. But, like knowing kind of what it does and how it helps within the company, that's what the ideal is. And if you don't really understand what a CFO is or does, I mean, I hate to say this, but you're probably suffering in your business. Like
I think most people have no clue. You know what I mean? Like that for a lot of people, other than the word CEO, like they don't know what many other roles in like that do. But a CFO is, if you don't have somebody that's looking at, because here's the thing, Byron. When you look at it, like they're not planning for income, right? So if you're not planning for income, then you're kind of just trying to pay shit as it comes in. When you're saying, okay, so we're forecasting 2 weeks out. Okay, we have we need to make this much this week because we have this expenses coming in. They're not looking at cash bills or any of that stuff, so they have no idea what a CFO is.
No, they don't. And so a lot of times we come in, fairly new businesses, and so 2020 was tough for a lot of people, great for others. 2021 was pretty good for a lot of people. There's a lot of money out there. People make good money. And so there's a lot of businesses that have started recently and they've seen this just massive growth curve, which is fantastic. But they're out there hustling. They're putting in the grind, right? They're working and they make good money and they have no clue what these seats need to be, right? And so you come in and you're like, hey, do you have your 5 C's taken care of? And they're like, don't even know what the first C is, So like we're like, okay, what do you have? CEO? Yeah, that's me. Okay, cool. Who's your CFO? And as crazy as it sounds, a lot of times this is like, oh, that's my mom or my sister, or my uncle does that for me. Like, okay, well, you need somebody needs to be designated, right? And so like this is what it does, this is where you need it. Okay, cool, I got that. All right, so sales. Who's your CSO? Who's doing your sales? Oh, I'm doing all the sales. Okay, cool. Maybe you're the best person for it. Who knows, right? Who's your COO? What's that? That operations. Who's doing your operations? Oh, yeah, I do that. Like, okay, all right, cool. So who's your CMO? All right, well, Chief Marketing Officer? Oh, yeah, I do that too. It's like, all right, cool. so you do everything.
I can see how this is going, man, because it's interesting too, because I feel like even like us as a business, I found we actually work well with CEOs that are no longer in the production area of their company. They're kind of our best clients because they're just looking at growth and awareness and things like that. Yep. And so it's kind of like there's businesses in different stages, right? Like what you're talking about is somebody that may not even have the awareness these things exist yet.
No, and they have employees that can fill them, and I'm not a fan for just throwing out titles for title's sake, right? But like think of it more as hats, not just titles. And if you are filling all those and you're filling it well, right, then like find the one that one of 2 ways you can go. Find the one that's easiest to fill, right? Like with somebody quality that's going to be at your level, right? Or find the one that you like really don't like as much, right? Like I don't want to say hate or dislike because we want to keep it positive, right? But the one that you like the least. And then fill that one so you can step out of it, right? And then you can focus on the other ones. And a lot of times that is hats. Like a lot of times, you'll have to wear 2, 3, 4, sometimes 5 hats, and then you bring somebody in. Maybe they wear 2, right? And you're wearing 3. But you can really stage it. But you have to start thinking about where I'm going to be, not like so focused on where you were. So, I mentioned 21 was a great year for a lot of people, and I hear that a lot. They're like, oh, man, 21 was great. It was fantastic, man, killed it, crushed it. We just need another year like 21. Well, you're never going to have another year like 21. 21's over. Hopefully, you say at the end of 23 was amazing. I want to have another year like 23. Again, never going to happen, right? The only easy day was yesterday. So like, moving towards this and like filling those and kind of finding that responsibility, sometimes you have to take a step back and look at like, okay, this is where I'm at. And like, I need to structure this. Like, I need to make sure that everything is where it needs to be and I'm focused in the right spot. Because if you're out there doing, $10 an hour jobs to keep your business afloat, man, you're missing out on those $100,000, $5,000 an hour things that could really grow your business.
I know for us early on, one of the things I focused on before like we had people doing all these different jobs in our company is I would take and look at different time periods of the day or the week or whatever it may be. And I say, okay, from this hour to this hour, these are hours and I'm doing this executive function versus this executive function. Yeah. Maybe you don't have somebody right away to do that, but I will tell you the biggest change in our business, frankly, was when I was no longer in the finance area and and there was somebody that was just handling that area. Because at the same time, you could just focus on growing your company and growing your profits. And I guess when we're looking at that, Byron, like you talked about worrying about growing profit versus revenue. So how would we put that focus more on that, and how do we put that into action?
Yeah, so it's complicated and it's simple, right? So the complicated part is you have to narrow it down, right? Mm-hmm. And that's where it gets simple. So find the problem, right? And it can be super broad, like and I'll even go as far, like the one I hear the most often is I just need to make more sales, right? Okay, cool. So let's start there. What do you need to do to make more sales? They just got to work harder. That's not a real solution. Let's work on something very specifically that they need to do to like create more sales. What do they need to do? Well, like they need to call leads more. Okay, cool. So we need better follow up. So who needs to do that? Well, all of my guys they're on the phone, all day long. Like I don't have anybody for that. Okay, cool. So we need to hire somebody specifically for follow-up, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, but we really have the money for that. But you don't have the money to not do that. Right. If that's the thing you need to grow your business, you got to pull the trigger. Like you got to do that, or you're going to have to do it. Like hire somebody, you do it. So we figure out those little things that they need to do that are going to bring that to. If that's your focus is revenue, okay, fine. But we got to find where it's profitable. So you got to look at each one of these salesmen. If every one of these salesmen is working, they're 40 hours a week, they're doing everything they can to build it, then we got to go back to what we just talked about, the break even, right? Like, is their commission so high that you're not making money on them, right? Mm. If they're putting out full effort, then maybe your commission structure is bad, right? Maybe it costs too much to do it and you're paying all your profit and commission.
And I know this is just a little thing, but we also, and I don't know if every company does this, we pay our commissions after expenses. Like they don't pay it on like the full number that comes in. So like, when, a sale comes in, okay, well, we take 3% right off the top for transaction fees, things like that, because I can't pay you on money I never took.
Yes, 100%. I love that. Thank you for saying that. So many people don't do that, and and that's why I said like it's complicated and it's simple, right? It's very complicated to do that for a lot of people because they're like, well, I don't know what the exact profit is, so like I don't really know what that's at, so I'm just going to pay them 10% of whatever they bring in, right? And that's probably fine. Well, that's horrible if your profit margin is 10% or less.
Yes.
You just gave it all away, yes. But if it's 20 or 30 or 40 or 50, then yeah, that might make sense, right? So, and the thing is like people are probably going to get more excited about bigger numbers. So like in your pitch, if you say, hey man, I'm going to give you 25% of the profit on this, right? Well, if your profit margin's 10% and they're getting 25%, they're getting 2.5%. So a quarter of the 10% the other guy's given, right? And so much better for you. The number sounds bigger. So they're like, yeah, this is amazing. I'm getting 25%. This is great. But like, and I'm not trying to say trick them. That's not my point. But like, they
need it needs to be motivational. It needs to get you excited and want to do more of it.
Yeah. But on both sides, right? Like as the business owner, you should be super stoked when your salesman goes and makes a commission, right? You should be right there alongside celebrating. You shouldn't be like, oh man, made another sales. I gotta pay this commission out. I gotta go sell one of the trucks so I can make payroll. Not a good spot, right? You should be right there celebrating with them. But if you don't know your numbers, like you just said, like we pay it off the profit, which is great. It's amazing. And your people will focus in, right? They will be like, they'll want you to be profitable because they're going to get paid more. If you're more profitable, then they make more money. Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. That's alignment, guys. Like that's exactly where we need to be. I would love to have every single person, every single business aligned on the same mission. you hear it from like, we deal with a lot of SF guys with our charity, and like alignment is like everything for these guys, right? And they have to be. It's life or death, right? And I get businesses in life or death, but same principles. Like if we're aligned together and we're all going the same direction, like we're going to be so much stronger, man, we're all tip of the spear. We're killing it. Yeah. But you have to know that stuff. You have to know the boring financials of profit, revenue, all this stuff, or you can't be. You just don't know. You don't know what you don't know. So
I guess, we started looking at sales and kind of looking at how that would be. Like, what other things would be kind of key things you would look at? Would it be like areas to cut, or would it be stats we should be monitoring more often? Like, what things should we be taking a look at here, other than we started at sales?
Yeah, so like the easiest way to break this out, there's three major factors, right? There's revenue drivers, profit drivers, cash flow drivers. And so your revenue is generally how many sales and what does each sale consist of, right? That's basic revenue. So profit, which is where I spend most of my emphasis on, because I think profit is everything, you're looking truly at your expenses, right? So the revenue is what it is. If we can reduce these expenses, we're going to be better. Like what's your payroll running, right? What are you spending on marketing? What's your overhead look like, right? All of these things that are expenses. And if we can make minute adjustments in these, like that's where it's really going to kill it. And so I'll tell you a story, and I usually have a graphic for this, so I'll try to explain it well. So I was talking to this guy, and he was really stoked about going to this conference. I don't know if I can say his name. Bleep it out if you can't. I like the guy, so I'm not talking bad. Grant Cardone has a 10X conference. Yeah. And so he's like, I'm going to go to this fucking 10X conference, man. I'm going to 10X my business. It's going to be amazing. I'm going to kill it, blah, blah. I was like, cool, man. Where are you at? And he's like, dude, we did $1 million last year. I was like, awesome, man. What was your profit? Dude, I lost like 50K, but I'm going to turn it around next year. Okay. So you're going to go learn to 10X your business. He's like, yeah, bro, I'm going to crush it. I'm like, all right, cool. So you're going to go from 1 million to 10 million. He's like, yeah. You're going to go from losing 50K to losing 500K. No, that's not the way it works. And I'm like, but yes, if you 10X your business, everything being in alignment.
Yeah, your liabilities go way up.
Yeah, your liabilities go up. Your cost of doing business goes up 10X, the same as your revenue goes 10X. So your 50K loss becomes a 500K loss. Mm-hmm. So he's like, no, man, that's not the way it works. I'm like, well, like what if you did 10% better in your costs, right? What if you just improved yourself 10% in what it costs you to do business? Like, do you think that would have a big impact? Nah, man, 10% is nothing. I'm like, 10% is a lot, bro. Like 10% is way bigger than 10X. And he's like,
here's the thing too. So last year we changed credit card merchants. Yeah. Because like we were, I think 3.125%, because we don't take cards in person, right? So it's all, card not present, which is always higher. Oh, yeah. So we changed companies last year to drop to 1.9%.
Yeah.
Now, when you're looking at that per every transaction, dude, that's a huge deal.
Yeah. That's straight to your profit line.
Yeah.
It really is. Like, and that's the thing people don't get is when you reduce those expenses like that, it's an immediate impact on your profitability. When you increase revenue, you're also increasing your costs, right? And so it's not a direct impact. Yes. But if your revenue stays the same and you decrease your cost of doing business, direct line to your profitability. And so like in my example, the dude, when I explained to him, I said, if you're doing $1 million in revenue, it's costing you $1,050,000 to do that because you've got a 50K loss. I said, so if you were to take $1,050,000 and reduce that by 10%, you go from a 50K loss to a $55,000 profit. $105,000 swing for just reducing your expenses by 10%. So yes. Same thing you just said, like you reduced your carrying cost of your merchant cost, right? Your credit card processing cost, you did it, let's call it 2%, right? So that 2% is an immediate impact on your profitability. And we don't need to talk about what you make, but like, honestly, man, 2% is a big amount, like
on every single transaction that comes in, right? Because let's face it, not many people pay with checks anymore. It's just the world we live in. So at the same time, like you have to be thinking of like, what are the things that I'm paying for most frequently, right? And that's why I know my wife is a little crazy about this stuff, but like there's so many of these like recurring transactions now for all these softwares and stuff like that people buy, like they build up fast, man. But those are the things people don't look at, and that's money right out of your pocket.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%. And there's apps out. Like this is the thing that's crazy to me. People will pay for an app that like filters through their stuff to find all those recurring, and help them to eliminate them. So like, okay, well, I'm going to pay for this other app that's going to eliminate this $9 and something charge every month, but I'm going to pay $9 and something for this app. But
broke even, but I feel good about it, man.
And it's important to feel good about the things you do, right? But like knowing the financial impact, man, is everything. And I love the fact that like you're in there, you're digging through it, and like most people don't get excited about a 2% change, right? 2.2, but like, bro, 2.2%, dude, that's massive. Like,
yeah.
And when you get up into millions and millions of dollars, in revenue, if you can get a 2% swing in something, like you're going to be the hero, right? They're going to probably throw you a parade, because like that's a big difference. But that's it. That's what we do. Like the CFO is that boring guy in the corner with his red stapler that's like trying to figure out, like, can we get a point here? Can we get a point here? Like, what can we do to get these expenses down so that, the rainmakers that are getting the revenue, so that like has a bigger impact on the bottom line, right? And so I don't want to say it's Robin to Batman, because I would never put myself as a Robin, but like, you need that. Like, the visionary needs somebody that's like doing the details to make sure that you're clean, that you're good, and like, what you're moving towards makes sense and makes profit, and covers you. So.
I'll never hear the word red stapler without thinking of my red twing line stapler. The movie Office Space. I can't help myself.
Oh yeah.
Well, I guess when we're looking at it, like I think the other thing businesses don't plan for enough, and a lot of them just ending up paying for at the end of the year, is like taxes. So I guess when we're looking at it, like what sort of strategies should we have around that, right? Because if you're really paying attention to your payroll taxes and stuff like that, like the IRS is your oh, there it is. Is the employee that just takes money from you and doesn't produce anything for you. So I guess like what sort of like tax strategy should we be looking at? Because I think it's another thing people don't consider.
No, they really don't. And so we'll go into detail. The biggest thing that I tell people with tax strategy is quit being reactive and be proactive, right? Mm-hmm. Like if you're not looking at your tax strategy until April of the following year, you've waited too long, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, I can do an extension until October. I get that. But most of your options are over on April 15th. Some of your options are over.
Yeah, if you don't pay something, you're still going to pay a penalty or something like that.
Yeah. Even if you push them out, you're going to pay the penalty. But like you've missed out on a lot of things that you could have done. So throughout the year, and what we do is we look at it every month. Where are we at? What's our prediction, right? And so every one of our clients, we do a 5-year forecast. So we're not looking at like what happens next month. We do 100%. Like that's part of it. We go as far out as 5 years. And we want to know what our implication is in 5 years. We're looking at any carryovers. We're looking at how that affects us. What can we invest in now that's going to give us those tax savings in the future? And what does it look like for us profitability-wise 5 years from now, right? And so every month we're looking at where are we at? Where does that picture look? What do we need to spend? Because sometimes you need to spend. Sometimes you need to invest in your business, to create more wealth, but also to avoid some of those taxes. And I'm not saying like you shouldn't pay taxes. 100% pay your share, right? But minimize your share as much as you can. The government is completely okay with this. They know if you use funds to build your business, they're going to get more tax dollars in the future. They're not focused on what can I get today, right? They're focused on like what can I get in the future. And they want you to grow. They want you to take advantage of the tax savings that are out there. That's why they exist. And so, but you have to look at them as you're growing, and you can't wait to the last minute. So there's a ton of people, we get to the end of the year and like, hey man, here's your profit. Like, we can spend $200K on such and such, right? And instead of giving, that money to the government, instead of giving the government $80,000, like that 80,000 can go into building your business. I don't have 200K because the cash flow is bad, right? Mm-hmm. But the cash flow is different than like what you actually have. So when the books show that you made $200,000, well, now the government's like, hey, I need my taxes on my $200,000. But if you're not consistently watching that throughout the year, you get into that cash flow issue, like you mentioned earlier, like robbing from Peter to pay Paul, right? Like, hey, I got to pay payroll. I can't go buy a machine, or I can't go, drop money on, this intellectual property or whatever, buy a truck, whatever that expense would be. You can't grow it because you're not watching your cash flow.
Yes.
So if you're not planning regularly, it's just not going to work. And make sure you're structured correctly. Like LLC is different from an S Corp, from a C Corp, all these things. Constantly look at that. Look at where you're at. Take advantage when you can. The K1 goes directly to yourself. So if you're in a partnership, look at that. Maybe talk to your partners, talk to your investors. Hey, should we go C Corp? So the company's paying it. You're not going to make as much, but you're also not going to have the liability on the other side. And we can keep more money in the company. Are we in a growth phase? Or are we doing this to have mailbox money? What's your purpose? And these things matter when you're looking at tax strategy, because if you're just looking to minimize your taxes, nothing wrong with that, right? There's a broader picture, what's our ultimate goal and how can we use our tax strategy to meet that goal?
Well, I'm curious now because I kind of alluded to it in the intro a little bit, Byron, about businesses laying off now and things happening. Part of it is we're after the holidays, right? So you're seeing a lot of employees that were hired just to work for 2 or 3 months. Now they're getting laid off. It is what it is. But I think at the same time, we have seen economic growth is kind of stagnated a little bit. Though we're not in a recession because that definition was changed. But I guess I'm curious for you, what things should we be looking at in 2023 as kind of the economy has gotten a little bit more, on shaky ground?
Yeah, so I think we need to focus on our people, like our employees, and our partnerships, honestly.
Yeah.
I think that we're going to, it's always a weird cycle, right? So, everybody needed workers. Well, people decided they didn't need workers because everything's shut down, right? And so everybody's scrambling for a job. It was hard to find one. And then all of a sudden people needed people, right? And so everybody went back to work, but they were able to jump around a lot. And so the price of labor went up significantly for a lot of companies, right? And so we're still in this stage where, I think every employee would say I'm not paid enough, or every employer would say I'm paying too much, right? And that's fine. And they're probably both right. But we're coming to a stage where it's going to be easier and easier to find workers because people are getting laid off, they're leaving, whatever. So focusing on your culture, find the people that fit your culture, right? And believe in the vision, that alignment thing we talked about earlier, because those are the ones that when you show them, hey, this is why I'm paying you this, because this is where we're going. And when you can justify what they're paid, they're going to be a lot happier, right? And so I've seen employees take jobs that are paid less because they're in for the alignment, right? They're like, I believe in this company, I believe in where we're going, and I see the future. Whereas Amazon, not to pick on Amazon, but they're massive, right? And they're not going to pitch you on the vision. They're just, hey, this is what we got for you. This is what we can pay you. This is the benefits. It's an air conditioned warehouse you're going to work in, right? Those are good things, but that's not alignment. Yeah. So I think we need to focus on build the culture. Find the people that believe in your culture, believe in your core values, that are going to get in alignment with you, right? And they're going to go towards the vision with you. Build it with those guys, right? If you got to, do a little profit share, maybe maybe there's equity in play there. If you have it, that's a sticky situation. I would always suggest getting professional help with that. But
if things go bad, then they own a part of what you're doing, and that's also a problem too. So it's that's pretty sticky.
It is, yeah. And you can use phantom equity. There's a lot of different concepts that come into play that you can use to protect yourself in that. You can have accumulation periods, things of that nature. But if they're in your core values, they're in your culture, you're in alignment, generally you're going to be good to go on that. And you find those people, build those people, find not just the raving fans of your customers, but find the raving fan employees, right? And if you can get that, you're going to be able to weather any storm. And I think that I personally feel, and this is not a prediction or anything like that, but I think that we're going to come through this just fine, right? There's going to be a little tightening. And I think the people that are kind of, not really doing what they need to be doing, but have made good money because the money's just been kind of everywhere, they're going to fall off, right? They're going to have to go somewhere else. But the people that have good cultures, that have good organizations, that are doing what they need to do, they're going to come through this, and they're going to come through it even stronger, but you can't do that alone, and the days of the employee that you're well, they get a paycheck, they should just be happy, that doesn't exist anymore. You need the people that are raving fan employees, right? That are in alignment with you. Yeah. And if we focus on that, we're gonna be fine. Companies are gonna get through it, no problem.
And it doesn't have to be big moves. I know for us, one of the things we changed this year, and our employees love it, is we went from biweekly payroll just to weekly payroll. Yeah. Right? Because expenses come weekly, and it's good for cash flow too, though, because then you can budget differently as well, because you're budgeting on what's coming in, what's going out every week. So 100%. But also we're really big on production bonuses as well. So, base pay plus if you do a really great job, we're going to pay you a hell of a lot more. And I think companies could do a lot more production-based bonuses because it gamifies it for people, right?
Yes. Yeah, dude, I love that. Gamify. Yes. So I've talked about this a few times before, and I love that you said that because that's exactly where it is. Like the ideal
we make
employee,
team games too. Like if you guys do something cool together, we're going to buy something or a trip or something for everybody. Like that's fun, man.
Yeah, no, 100%. And like, I'm not a fan of the pizza party. Like everybody kind of makes fun of the pizza
that's
party.
kind of lame.
Yeah. But like, there's a lot of cool things, and like they'll tell you. Like, talk to your people. Like, don't assume that they want something. Like, talk to them, because a lot of times, bro, it'll blow your mind. So, one of the businesses that I'm involved in, the sales crew, like their office, they didn't have any window, right? Because it was in a warehouse, they didn't have any windows. It was just, we called it the sales pit. Like, it was kind of boring. And so we're like, hey, like what would really like help you guys out? And they're like, hey, we want a window. Like. We're not on an outside wall. We're in the middle of a really big warehouse. They're like, we don't care. We want a window. I'm like, oh, a window into the warehouse? Yes. Yeah. We can see things. We can see people. Cool. We literally put in windows in this room, this sales pit. They could see out. And then our CSO in this company is amazing. Great guy. Super great guy. So he's like, hey, like, let's spice it up a little bit. So we got some motivational posters, as cheesy as it sounds, motivational posters, put them up on the wall, framed them so they look good, not just tacked up. He put in a Red Bull and something else, like another cooler in the office. Like, hey, like, don't take them with you, but like, if you want to drink 5 Red Bulls, like, wear yourself out, right? Just don't abuse it type thing.
Yeah.
Put it in there and it changed everything. Like, they can see out. They're interacting with each other, like they're drinking their Red Bulls. They're, it just completely changed everything. And it wasn't that expensive, right? Like, we could have done all kinds of things for them, but we said, hey, what's important? Like, we want to see the outside. Like, okay, well, you can't really see the outside, but like, you can see something, but they loved it. And that changed everything for them. So like, talk to your people, man, they're going to tell you what they want. Like, and the best employee, if you can do it, the best employee is the one that eats what they kill. And generally everybody assumes that's sales, but that it can be more than sales.
Yes.
But like if your salespeople are on full commission, like, and they're eating what they kill, they're probably going to be really happy. They're going to be really motivated to make it happen, right? And you still got to do the other things too. And I think like benefits are important. But like if you can do that for them, like they know exactly where they're going to be, and they know exactly what they're going to make, right?
Yes.
And if they work their tail off on the end of the day Friday, right? If that's the last day of the payroll period or the commission period, and they work it and they kill some sales, they know they're going to get rewarded with more pay. Like, that's awesome. But if you're paid the same amount, like per hour, I hate hourly. There's a statistic that says, and I can't remember exactly where it came from, but the average 8-hour a day worker produces less than an hour worth of work in that 8-hour day. Mm-hmm. It's insane. Yeah. So, and I don't know if that's true, and I don't remember the exact place that I got
No,
it.
I've heard things similar, and it's I've heard ranges from like 1 to 3 hours. So no, I see it because it's like like walks to water cooler 10 times, twirls pencil 2 hours. So like it's like man, like based it on productivity and what's being produced. You know what I mean? Because if it's based on like, okay, I've hit this target, cool, I can beat it, I can hit this target, and I get paid more for it. Well, shit, man, I can give myself a raise. I'm gonna do that. Yeah,
100%. So yeah. If you can get people on that, and if you can find that way, like you said, like production bonuses or really anything like profit shares, something that people get into it and they like you said, gamify it, right? Like, all right, cool. If we do this, then we're going to hit this next level. Like we get the magic mushroom or whatever, like don't give your employees magic mushrooms, but like, but they get a win, right? And they get to celebrate that. And I love team wins. I think it's good. Individual performance is great. But man, team wins are awesome too, because then you get everybody in alignment together, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying like you shouldn't have multiple instances of this, but there are definitely situations in which like you should have the battle with the boss. And like sales is a great place for this, right? If you're a CEO and you're amazing at sales, challenge your sales team. I'm not going to tell you to intentionally lose. But I will tell you that like when they beat you, like it is a huge motivator for them, right?
Yes.
I don't say let them beat you all the time. I'm not, it's not like dealing with toddlers. But like, if you're going to do it consistently, you should probably win sometimes. But like when they're able to beat you, like that's a huge motivator, and it really humanizes that relationship. And I think that stuff's great. Like if you need a big boost, great way to do it. But you should be good at sales. Like it shouldn't be like beating the janitor, at something like, unless you're what's his face that wrote out the big crazy formula at Harvard. What was his name?
Oh gosh, A Beautiful Mind, whatever his name is there.
Yeah. Like that would be different. Like not picking on janitors if there's any listening. But
well, Byron, I've really enjoyed this conversation, man. For people listening, if they want to connect with you, they want to learn more about what you're doing, they want some help, man. Like where should our listeners go?
Yeah, so CFO AF is pretty simple. CFO, Chief Financial Officer AF. It means exactly what you think it means. You fill in the blanks.
Art festival.
Yeah, Art Fest. Sure, why not? Accounting and finance, like, you name it. Fill in the blank for whatever works for you. But yeah, CFOAF.com, man, we're there. If it's cool with you, like we'd really like to put a link in for your listeners. So we've created this it's a short little self process of like learning about like how to best structure, like where a partnership works for you, just kind of some of the simple answers that some of the startup businesses, very young companies are looking at, like, hey, what does this mean? What's best for me? So we did this little guide that will help you through that and hopefully save you a lot of money on having a business consultant give you this information, right? And maybe it just gives you a step up, maybe a business consultant where you need to be, but it'll help you get through that first little stage and get to the advanced questions. So if it's cool with you, man, I'd love to throw that link up there, provide it for your listeners.
Yeah, where can we find that?
So that's going to be on our website, CFOAF. We'll have a link there. We have a click-through as well. My assistant went to get. I don't know where she went. So we do have a link. But yeah, can we edit that in?
Yeah, we can edit that in. So if you want to wait till she finds it, we can kind of just cut this.
Hey, Chrissy, what's that website?
Interlude out.
The What If Plan.
Yeah, the What If Plan.
The best part about it is we haven't written it, so I'm like over here screaming that you're.
That's great.
Today, so it'll be good to go. When is this published?
This is going to be a couple weeks, so probably about 2 weeks, I'm thinking.
Yeah.
So you got some time, man. No worries. It'll be 2 weeks on my show. It'll be 2 weeks on my show. It's longer on the company show because it'll play on both, so that'll be another like 4 weeks. So you got time, man.
Okay, yeah, I'll have it done by Monday. I just got to finish up.
So if you just know the link. If you just know the link, then we can just ask you where to find that again, and then Joseph will cut out like what just happened here.
It's called the whatifplan.com.
Okay, yeah. Do you want me to just say that?
Yeah. So then once again, like where can we find that free offer you mentioned?
Yeah. So that's at the whatifplan.com. So whatifplan.com.
The
whatifplan.com.
Very cool. Byron Wolfe, thanks for hanging out with me today, man.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you, brother. That was a great time, man. I know I went long, but I appreciate it. Love talking to you, man. It was an amazing podcast.
Absolutely.